All right, welcome everyone. Great to have all of you joining us today. We are going to hang out for just a minute to make sure that everyone can join and get settled in. Today, we are going to be talking all things compliance, so be sure to grab a drink and a snack so you don't miss a thing. Today, I have with me Shelby Brown. Hi, Shelby. What's going on in your neck of woods? How's the weather? What's the latest?
Hi, Amy. Hi, everyone. I am zooming in today from Reno, Nevada. We are kind of having a true fall here this year, which is a little bit rare. So not quite winter yet, not quite summer, but happy to be here with you all. So thanks for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. Bozeman is looking beautiful right now. Some lovely, cold, crisp, sunny fall days. So certainly going to enjoy that until, it's freezing for months. All right, well, we're just past the hour, so I'm officially going to get us started. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Amy Arno, and I am the Director of Business Development at XYPN. Today, I am thrilled to host this event from overwhelmed to in control, enhancing your compliance framework as an RIA owner with XYPN Senior Compliance Consultant Shelby Brown. If you have questions for Shelby as she's doing her presentation, just please use that Q&A button at the bottom of Zoom. It just helps us keep track of things a little bit easier than in the chat. At the end, we're going to have plenty of time for questions, so we'll just hang on to them and then be sure to get to them all towards the end. Also, when the webinar is over, you will be able to fill out a survey from Zoom. So as soon as you close out, that survey will pop up. We would just love to hear how we did. Also, please include ideas for topics that you would like to hear about in the future. We have lots of great upcoming virtual content. There's a couple I just want to mention real quick. Permanent life insurance, should it stay or should it go? That is eligible for one CFP CE credit. That's going to be presented by LLIS, and that is on December 3rd at 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. You can sign up for that in the chat. Also, on December 11th at 11 a.m., we'll be hosting Practical SEO, How to Help Your Niche. So we'll also put the link to register for that as well. So always stay tuned. We have a virtual events landing page on our website that has all the upcoming events. So if you ever want to check out what else we have on board, be sure to head over there. Okay, enough with the logistics. Let's get to the reason you all are here. Shelby, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk a little bit more about who you are and give us your presentation.
Thank you, Amy. Hello again, everyone. My name is Shelby Brown. I have worked with XYPN since May 2019, so just over 5 years now. I love it. One of my favorite things is that I get to work from home. I was born and raised in this area, so I love it here. I also love to visit Bozeman, hang out with the team, and get work done at the same time. I have been in RIA compliance for close to 10 years now. I have the IACCP designation, which is Investment Advisor Certified Compliance Professional since 2016. And ready to just feed you all some information today about what you need to do to be a successful Chief Compliance Officer as of your own firm. So we will go ahead and get started. First, kind of what is the requirement here? So there is a rule called the Compliance Program Rule. It is part of the Investment Advisors Act of 1940. And while this is a rule that directly applies to SEC registered investment advisors, it is still largely relevant to those who will be state registered, as many states tend to refer to this rule in their regulations. So whether you're a solo advisor or you plan to have multiple employees or independent contractors who deliver or support the delivery of your firm's services, this rule kind of guides your compliance world or your compliance life. So the rule requires 3 things of us. One is to designate a CCO who is competent, knowledgeable, and empowered in their position. The second is to establish a set of written policies and procedures that are reasonably designed to detect, prevent, and correct violations of the rules. Throughout the presentation, if you hear me say P and P, it's P and P. So that's my short form of policies and procedures. Just a little easier to say, and sometimes it just flows out of my mouth. So establishing policies and procedures. And then lastly, we want to review those policies and procedures on an annual basis to ensure that they've been effectively implemented. So you may have heard floating around the industry from time to time, from a compliance perspective, we want to do what we say and say what we do. The say is actually what we write in our policies and procedures. And we want to make sure that that matches what we're doing in practice on a day-to-day basis in our business. So, establishing a written set of policies and procedures. The regulation surrounding this requirement is intentionally principles-based rather than prescriptive, in that the specific policies and procedures that your firm will implement are based on your actual business operations, what risks you have in your firm, if you have other people in your firm that you need to supervise, and so on. So they give us a framework of areas that they want to see us establish policies and procedures in, but they don't actually give us the policies and procedures. So you were relying on, again, our interpretation of the rule and making sure that our policies and procedures reflect what's required of us in the rule based on our business practices. So on the screen right now are a few areas of policies and procedures that are customary for RIAs to establish: portfolio management practices, disclosures, trading, custody and safeguarding client assets. That's a big one because that's an area where bad actors have an opportunity to misappropriate client funds. And so we want to prevent that, have our policies and procedures in place to detect and prevent that. Books and records, so keeping what you're required to keep and being ready to prepare or to deliver it to an auditor in an exam setting. Data security, always a hot topic with our regulators. Marketing and advertising, billing practices, and then business continuity and disaster recovery planning. So again, these are just very common areas where we see most RIAs establish policies and procedures, and a process to test them to ensure that they are effective. So already that may sound like a lot. It's thinking, where do I start? You want to review your current practices, identify and address key risk areas of your firm. So conducting a firm-wide risk assessment is highly recommended as a good starting point. This will show you the areas of the business that are more risky and where you should attend to issues sooner rather than later, where they would be more crucial if something went wrong. So that just gives you a kind of an idea or a framework of which policies and procedures are most important for your firm. And then you want to make sure that you are updating your policies and procedures on a regular basis annually, to make sure that they are effectively implemented, as I've said a few times already. And if you have updates to your policies, that you can let other people in your firm know that maybe they need to do something a little bit different in order to stay compliant. This leads us to annual reviews of your compliance program. So the risk assessment process that I mentioned just a second ago is highly suggested, but isn't actually explicitly mentioned in the rule. The annual review, however, is specifically mentioned as part of the rule. And just last November, the SEC updated their version of the rule to actually require documentation of the annual review of your compliance program. A lot of us were doing that already, possibly, the documentation piece, but it wasn't part of the rule. Now it is. So they want us to show that we're reviewing our policies and documenting that process. What we want to document are any significant changes made to the business that have triggered maybe an update or a tweak to our policy and procedure documents. Anything on the risk assessment that's relevant to document that you found, maybe that you were unaware of, or maybe you went through an audit, came away with some deficiencies to correct, making sure that those were corrected in a timely manner and that is still going well. And then if there are any new or amended rules and regulations that the industry has brought forth that touch your firm, updating your policies and procedures to be in line with any of those updates. So we document that documentation here is also, you have quite a bit of freedom, which is nice. So it can change based on how large or small your firm is, how many people are in your firm, that kind of thing. So there's no one right way or one wrong way to handle the documentation. They just tell us the areas they want to see us documenting. Another great thing to do if you're not a solo firm is to conduct an annual compliance meeting. So this is a great opportunity for the staff to ask the CCO questions, for the CCO to remind the staff that it's okay to ask questions. You're not going to get in trouble just for checking yourself and bringing something to the CCO's attention to see if maybe you think you might be out of compliance with some certain policy or procedure. Sometimes that's the only way the CCO knows, is if you bring it to their attention. So self-reporting is always a good thing, and questions are always a good thing as well. Always welcome questions. It's good to get kind of put a face to compliance. If you are in a multi-member firm and you have that's the part of being an empowered CCO that I mentioned on the first slide, is that you feel like you have the power to incentivize the staff to be compliant. So part of that is, again, making it a little more friendly, making it a little less scary, and just reminding them again that you're there for questions. So with the annual compliance meeting, you a lot of times will it's oftentimes a verbal reiteration of what your annual review documentation looks like. So you'll tell the staff, hey, we looked at all our policies and procedures. We made these couple small changes. We wanted to let you know about them. Let us know if you have any questions, that sort of thing. It's usually pretty short and sweet, but it's also important. So take attendance and record it. It's just in case anyone can't make it, they can digest it later. So some key areas to focus on when you are reviewing your policies and procedures and seeing if they need updates. The SEC recently updated its marketing rule, semi-recently now. Does this apply to you? Are you in full compliance with it? Because the full compliance with that updated rule, a piece of that is that you have updated policies and procedures that reflect the new rule. Are you documenting the annual review, as we just mentioned? Are your portfolio management practices sound, including if you decided to add a new custodian to manage assets, or maybe remove a custodian and no longer work with them? So a little bit of vendor due diligence in there. Accuracy of fee calculations and invoicing practices. So your billing practices are a very important part of your firm. We need to make sure that the policies and procedures surrounding those practices are sound. This is an area where you could, if you saw an audit, a deficiency out of an audit in relation to your billing practices, it could cost the firm money. It could be a public disclosure event. And so we want to see you checking yourself before you get checked by an auditor, so you're more confident in the audit scenario and just confident that those things are going well. Is your disclosure language regarding your fees and services consistent in all different places that it appears? So you have your ADV disclosure document, your agreements that clients sign, your website, other public or client-facing materials like social media, brochures, maybe at seminars, any of your marketing materials. Anytime we're talking about your fees or services in more than one place, it needs to be consistent. That's one of the first things that an auditor is going to look for, actually probably before they come in and audit you, is what is your public presence look like, and are there any inconsistencies there? A semi-new requirement is IAR continuing education. So we want to make sure we have updated policies and procedures around that process, and that all of the staff who is registered in your firm understands what's required of them for CE. Also, accuracy of ESG disclosures in comparison with your actual investment process and practices. This is an area we've seen quite a few deficiencies out of audits, and some enforcement actions actually in larger firms in the public eye. If you say you deliver an ESG product or offer an ESG product, or you'll have ESG conversations with your clients, it's important to have really robust disclosures and policies and procedures about what ESG means to you. Because yes, it's an acronym, we could define it technically, but what does it actually mean to you? Because there's a spirit of that involved and it can be different for different firms. And lastly, do you have and follow a compliance calendar? So on an ongoing basis, you'll have a few compliance tasks that we want to see you checking in on yourself, again, before you're getting checked in an audit. Things like billing, disclosures, policy and procedures, most of what I've chatted about already today. We want to see you following a compliance calendar throughout the year, just a couple or a few hours per month dedicated to just testing or reviewing yourself. So if you work with our team, that's something that we can work to help set up for you. And I think that can be beneficial, just having a framework. You will get the slides for this presentation. So there's a few resources here that I wanted to point out. The SEC risk alerts, which you can sign up for on their website and have them delivered to your inbox, are really helpful. It tells you, just gives you a good idea of what they're focusing on, what exams are scoping, and what's top of mind for the auditors, because there are a lot of different subject matters that they can look at when they audit you, or areas of your business, but they typically will tell us what their hot spots are, what the hot topics are. XYPN also has a bunch of blog posts that are all available on our website that are a really good resource for again, documenting your annual compliance review, risk assessments, what's it mean to be state registered versus SEC registered, and how does that apply to these types of rules? And then, of course, our friendly neighbor, Michael Kitsis, has some wonderful blog posts as well on establishing and maintaining a compliance program on your own. So XYPN compliance can help in a few different ways. We have a couple of different departments within our compliance team, one fully dedicated to registering RIAs. And so that's something that can be quite an adventure to do on your own. So working with an experienced specialist who's done it before, done it in your state before, can be really a valuable add-on. We also will help you develop and refine your policies and procedures. We help prepare for audits. We help assist during live audits as much as we can, as much as you need us, as much as it feels right. And then we can also assist with any special projects that your team might have. So ADV filings, adding or removing people into your firm, adding or removing state registrations based on maybe where your clients are, if you're opening satellite offices. We'll do advertising reviews, and then again, assist with the ongoing compliance task management. So establishing that calendar, keeping you on task, kind of just an accountability partner. I think that's oftentimes what we hear our firms needing in the compliance area is some accountability, because newsflash, CCO isn't your only job title when you're an RIA owner. You have a lot of other things going on. And XYPN has a lot of resources in those other areas as well, marketing, sales, all of those different channels. But compliance can often sometimes end up being what I like to call like the dark, dusty corner in the back of your brain. You know it's there, you know it's dirty, you know it needs to be cleaned, but you sometimes just can't find the time, or it's just last on the list. So we'll kind of be that partner to remind you to clean that corner. It's dusty, it needs to be attended to, and you're going to feel a lot better once you do put just a little bit, dedicate a little bit of time to that. So compliance is not a huge burden, but it is a part of your responsibility as a CCO and a firm owner. And we want to make sure that we're able to work with you and show you that you can make time for it, and just kind of making more clear to you what is enough versus what is overkill, and working it into your schedule when you have time. We only have a couple sticky due dates in our compliance world. That's annual ADV update season, and then right now, which is renewal fee payment season. Other than that, your compliance tasks, we can fit them into your calendar for when it works for you. So it's one of the luxuries about being on the RIA side of compliance, is that you do have a lot of freedom. And so we like that, but totally also understand that with too much freedom, you can feel a little lost. So creating just enough framework, but not too much, to make it easy for you to manage things on your own. All right, that is my spiel, Amy. So I think we're ready for questions if you are.
I am. I'm coming back. Here I am. Perfect. Well, no new questions so far. So something I have always been curious about, of course, we're not the only compliance name in the game. So do you have some advice for people as they're shopping for compliance, whether that's registration or ongoing compliance support? What are some key things that they should be looking for? What are some important questions to be asking? Just kind of steer us in the right direction as we're making that decision.
Good question. Yeah, I think one of the more unique things about XYPN versus other RIA compliance offerings you'll see out in the industry is the whole suite of other offerings that we have when you're a member. But that aside, when you're looking at a compliance consultant, there are a lot of different ways to use a consultant, either on an ongoing basis where you pay essentially what feels like a retainer fee to have someone in your back pocket, unlimited email access. Anytime you have a question or a problem or a project, or you're just wondering about anything, you can get at that person. And it's kind of just, again, someone in your back pocket to just make you feel more secure, and someone who you have questions to ask. So that's always beneficial, but not everyone needs that. So it's also nice, I think, if we offer some project-based engagements. This is very similar to how a lot of financial planners design their service offerings. And I think that that's why our compliance team offerings are quite attractive to financial planners, because we can work in the same way that you work with your clients. So either on an ongoing basis where we have like a really intimate, close relationship, we talk very often, or just if you need a project, you have one thing that needs to get done, you don't have time to do it or don't know how to do it, don't have time to learn it, we can do that for you. Or kind of an in between. So we have some included resources at XYPN that are very helpful. A big resource library that we call Academy, that has guides and templates and how-tos for you. So you really can learn to do it all on your own if that's what fits with your brain. So if find out what sounds most attractive to you, what you feel like your biggest areas of need are, and making sure that you're being able to onboard with a compliance consultant that can fill your needs and kind of fit with your lifestyle, I guess, as far as communication style, things like that. Some of the other firms out there who only offer compliance services are just a little bit more rigid in their offerings. It feels, I think, maybe a little less personal than being able to, kind of tailor an engagement to exactly what you need.
Yeah, no, I love that. Thank you, Shelby.
Yeah.
Okay, we got a question. This is a long one, so hang in there. In the
Okay.
new Trump administration, do you see an SEC stance that is more unfriendly towards ESG-focused RIAs? How would that compare to liberal states like Massachusetts or Maryland? Is the new political climate, climate, there we go, I got it, a compelling reason to leave the corporate RIA that are SEC registered to registered in a more ESG friendly state? Get all that?
Really great question. Yes. So as much as we wish the political landscape did not affect, our securities regulations, it can, more so at the national or the federal level, the SEC level, because the the folks who are in charge of making those rules, approving those rule makings, drafting proposed rules, are oftentimes appointed. And so whoever is in office at the federal level, that can flow down to other federal bodies like the DOL, the SEC, those kinds of things. So what we often see is more trends, nothing so specific. So it's really hard to guess whether or not the current political landscape would affect a firm with an ESG offering more or less. And what I mean by more or less is like more regulation or less regulation. That's usually the trend we tend to see, is that, depending on who's in office and who's at the head of the SEC, we'll either see like some more regulation or a lack of more regulation. We don't ever really see deregulation, I can tell you that, regardless of who's in office. So I don't think we're going with like rules that currently exist going away. It's just whether or not more rules will become final or if things will kind of just pause.
Sure.
So I don't think that that alone is a strong enough or clear enough factor to dictate whether you leave your current shop or not. It's just there's too many unknowns to use that as your one decision making factor. It could be a go into the decision making process, certainly, but it's a little hard to tell. And with the states, I can tell you that changing state regulations takes a long time. It's a lot of meetings. It's all lawyers, attorneys, nothing moves very quickly in those types of settings. And so SEC marketing rule, for example, even states that did not follow the SEC's marketing rule, but want to, we're years into this process of them changing the way their rules are actually written. And so I don't see in your question, use the example of like a more liberal state being more allowing of like an ESG type of offering or product. I don't see things changing that quickly, even in reaction to something like we've just experienced.
Yeah. I was just gonna add that like, yes, the SEC is more regulated, but in our experience, a lot of times with compliance, that's better, right? It's standard. There's one process, and then with this, each state by state, it's gonna be willy-nilly, right? So
it can be, yeah. And if we think of the, the whole like liberal to conservative spectrum, because it is, the securities bodies like live still within that spectrum, and they try and stay as central as possible, so as to accommodate all types of businesses and all types of people who are running those businesses. So I don't see it being a huge factor, but it's definitely not something to ignore at the same time.
Yeah. So I think that's helpful for context, and like, it's not the only reason to make that decision, but it could play a part for sure for that person.
Right.
Okay, great. Next question. What solutions are available if I'm coming from a hybrid BD and I'm wanting over time to let the retail business go? I'm assuming retail must mean like fee-based stuff, like commissions and trails, maybe?
That was going to be my follow-up question as well. If whomever asked this, if you're able to just answer that follow-up question in there, so commissions and trails. So I mechanically, we're not able to really help with like how you do that, but we can give you some parameters on like what we see, and then our membership standards, how that ties into timing requirements for that sort of thing. So if you become a member, you have a year to wind down your commissions and trails from current business that you're doing. During that year is ideally when you would be working to get registered on the RIA side with your own firm, and then breaking away from your broker dealer takes a lot of different shapes and forms depending on your current arrangement with them. So there is something called broker protocol that you might want to look into that your firm might be a part of. Other than that, the transition process can be delicate in regard to just transparency. So how much can you let them know about your own new adventures before you actually leave? But I think that's why we give that 12-month buffer, so that in case you tell them your plans and then you're out the door the next day, you still have time to wind down the trails that might still exist, even if you're not a part of that company anymore. So we have, I don't know the exact statistics, but quite a few folks come over to membership from this world. And so it's a good thing to, I think, pick some of your colleagues' brains about as well, just as far as, like I said, the mechanics of actually doing those things. Since we're so RIA focused, I'm not sure how to actually make them stop paying you those trails. I just know you have 12 months once you become a member to make sure that that happens. And then the goal is that eventually your business, and this could take, you know, more than 6 months, but like eventually your business will make up for that loss of commission and trail revenue in other ways, just providing fee only services. So I don't talk to a lot of people who are often worried about losing that income. It's more just about mechanically how to make it stop.
Yes, for sure. I was going to add a little sneak peek. We are working on a guide for transitioning to fee only for people that have established books of business that are a little more murky and maybe are going to take some more time to transition. So keep an eye out for that. The main component, you know, is evaluating your current book and then going like literally like account by account to decide, you know, is there a fee only option for this? Can you remain the servicer of record without receiving the commission and trail? So we're going to walk you through in that guide, like exactly how to make some of those decisions. If there is something that you want to divest yourself of, like what are other good options for your clients? So stay tuned for that. That should be launching here in the next couple of months. So I think that will be really helpful for folks.
Yes, and there are a lot of actually new-ish, they're not so new anymore, but cool offerings on the fee-only side of the business that would allow a fee-only advisor to be on an advisor, like a special section of a platform at, let's say, an annuity company, in order to assist clients in investing in products like that, using one of that company's, you know, registered reps or agents to actually sell them that product. And then you just take an advisory fee like you would from any other type of service. So there's a way to work in some of those types of products on a fee only basis as well. And I think that transition guide is going to mention, that'll be part of what that transition guide reveals
Yeah,
or makes clear, gives details
definitely.
on.
And we should talk too, Shelby, about in terms of ongoing compliance needs. So for most folks, registration is relatively straightforward. Of course, can depend on your state, but we have a couple of like different tiers of service for registration, as will any compliance company that is offering registration for the most part. If you're coming from a complex situation or, you know, a broker dealer, a hybrid where you are used to some additional oversight and you don't want to let that go, you know, if you do want like advertising reviews, or if you are going to have custody over client assets, there's just some like additional complexities that you might need help with. And so just making sure that your compliance consultant, XYPN included, can offer something that fits that need is important. And XYPN, of course, has some options for that. Just so if there's some main areas that you're sure you're going to need help with, just make sure that anyone can offer that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, one of the coolest things we offer now, that we haven't always offered, but it's been very popular and really successful, is really getting you registered and getting your compliance program established and running all in 12 months. And so during the registration process, while we're waiting for a regulator response and kind of that communication process, which in some states can take quite some time. We can be working on building out some of those policy and procedure documents and that stuff. You already get working with someone on the consultant team and someone on the registration team all at one time, so that that first year is really setup and implementation kind of all at once. So
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. We've finally come around to hitting the 12-month mark with a lot of those folks, and it's been great. Some of them have transitioned out of the program. They feel like they've learned enough. We sometimes call it graduating. They've graduated, because we don't think of it as, canceling anything. It's just like we've done the job. They're ready to see what it feels like to be self-sufficient. Other folks, like you said, with more complex situations who just may not feel like they have the time to manage those on their own, have actually continued in an ongoing relationship past that 12 months. So lots of options for you. And we see people doing a lot of both, and it's just up to your individual situation. So
Yeah. No, that's great. What do you think, Shelby, is the biggest mistake that people make when either getting started with compliance or ongoing compliance? Is it just like not doing it?
no, I think ignoring it is not the worst mistake.
Okay.
I think because by nature, you probably are doing more than you think, more than it feels like to just be compliant on a day-to-day basis. But I think where people are lacking the most is disclosure and just organization. So not disclosure, documentation. Wrong D
Gotcha.
word. Documentation and organization. And so one of the things that we work with those first 12 months kind of clients with is setting up a folder structure in their drive that's really going to benefit them throughout their whole business. It's organized based on how an auditor is going to be asking you for documents. And so everything has its place. It's easy to find. It's easy to check yourself to make sure that you have robust and complete client folders. Easy to tell who's an active client, who's an inactive client. So getting organized from the beginning is going to help you stay organized throughout your compliance life. And I think the hardest work that I have to do is with people who have been unorganized for quite some time and trying to kind of change that behavior and flip things around. So being organized from the beginning is going to help you immensely.
Right. No, that's great. I love that. In terms of people that are not launched yet, that are thinking about launching, what would make their lives easier as they're going through registration? Like, should they be thinking about their fee structure or their service model? Like, what are some steps you can take as you're just sort of mulling over the idea of launching your own firm to be prepared to go through registration?
Yes, so preparing for registration is almost more important than the actual registration
Right.
process. And so we do want you to come to the compliance team who will help register you with already, yes, a good idea of what you anticipate your fees and services, fee and service offerings to be. Of course, it's a little bit difficult because it's all aspirational. It's all we're thinking about what the future might look like. And so putting things on paper in our disclosures and our policies and procedures that say, here's what we do, here's how we do it, when you haven't actually done any of those things yet is a little bit weird feeling at the beginning. But we do have a lot of launching resources and preparing for registration resources, group calls, written resources you can digest on your own time, recorded sessions you can digest on your own time to help you get through that thought process about your services and fees before you have our team draft an ADV and send it to the regulators asking to be registered. So a lot of compliance is like that, in that there's more work up front to make things run smoother later on. And I think that it's beneficial to really dig into what you want the fees and services to look like. And then if our team sees any red flags, like, oh, well, your state's not going to allow that. I understand you really want to do that, but it's just not going to fly in Massachusetts or something. Then that's when we can work together to try and bring, to try and get the two to meet what you want and what is allowed
Yeah.
at the same time, because those aren't always the same thing.
Yeah. No, absolutely. No, that's super helpful. Thank you. Okay,
Yeah.
let's see. We got a question. This is going back to your previous answer. Do you have a sample of that folder structure we can see? So whatever you mentioned for folder wise for clients, I think, do we have a sample of that that's free?
We do have that in Academy for members.
Gotcha.
It's not non-member facing at this time.
Gotcha.
So that's what we consider an included benefit of being a member, is that's part of the resource library that we get you once you're signed up for membership. So I don't think we can give it to these attendees. But I can tell you what we use to build it. And what we use to build it is the list of books and records that you're required to be keeping at either the SEC level or your state level. And so we kind of do that from reverse. Here's what you're supposed to be keeping. Here are the categories and the sections of that list. That's what we used to build the categories and sections of our folder structure. So
Gotcha. Perfect.
yeah.
So if you are a member, we do have that resource. If you are a member listening to this and you want to see that, you're not sure where it is in the Academy, you can reach out to the member experience team. It's membership at xyplanningnetwork.com, and they will get you in the right space with that.
Yep.
Okay, next question for you. What is the expected one-time cost and ongoing cost to break away as your own RIA? Assume we're dedicated to adopting a compliance partner to do this. Wow, I'm so glad we did not pay this person to ask this question.
I know. I was like, Amy, did you check this?
I wrote this. This is from Amy A. in Bozeman, Montana. We would love to tell you all about that.
Yeah. So it's hard for us to give you exact numbers because it depends on the package that you pull our team for, and it depends on the time that needs to go into getting you registered and getting things set up. But I can tell you, it's $5,000 to $10,000 probably for your first year in order to get all of that set up and going. Again, that's circumstantial. So, take that with a bit of a grain of salt. But I think, you will feel the benefit of that cost output almost immediately. And so we don't hear very many, if any, people saying like, wow, this is more than I feel like I should have paid for this. We've really dedicated a lot of time and effort to making sure that our services match what we're charging for them. It's really important to us that when people come to the compliance team and pay for assistance on top of their membership dues, that there's a huge amount of value that they see from that, because it's important to feel like you're getting out of it what you put into it, for sure. On an ongoing basis, after you're registered, everything is set up, you're looking at maybe around $500 a month at the starting point to like retain someone like me who you would speak with on a regular basis and have me in all your projects. So that's kind of the second step, the after things, but ballpark I think is probably good enough.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'm going to add just a little bit of color. So to join XYPN and utilize us for registration services, you do have to become a member, which is currently $505 a month. That's going to go up to $520 on January 1st. We always usually have about a 3% increase every year for membership fees. And then compliance, we've got a couple of options for registration. They start at $1,900 and go up from there based on like ultimately how much time you want to invest in registration. There is a caveat to that you might just be in a state where that doesn't make sense, or sort of like baseline package, because that only includes a certain number of hours of back and forth with the state regulator. And there's some states where it's just going to be more. So we also have some services for compliance that are fully included in that 505 that you're paying. As Shelby mentioned, there, if you want some enhanced service, then there is going to be an additional cost for that. You're not obligated to that, but it just depends again on what your needs are. So we can put a link in the chat if you want to have a conversation with one of our business development folks. They can walk you through like what might be a good fit for you. We also have a budget template that you can download and look at what might your situation be. So lots of ways to nail down your costs a little bit more closely. It's just like there's so many it depends that you really just need to talk to someone, and we can help you figure that out.
Yeah,
Okay.
we say that's the compliance answer, Amy. It
Yes,
depends.
it is. It all depends.
We're considering the back of some of our shirts will be like hashtag it depends.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, we've got a specific question, and because we've got some time, I think we'll answer it. So I registered an RIA over the summer using a different compliance company, C2C. That was your first mistake. No, I'm just kidding. I am a solo RIA currently, and I'm considering joining XYPN in the next few months. I already made a policies and procedures manual, ADVs, etc. Okay, I have about 5 years of experience working at an RIA where I worked closely with the compliance team on several projects, etc. So I'm likely competent enough to be the CCO. Great. In your opinion, would I need to hire additional XIPN compliance services when I sign up, or will the office hours, etc., be enough for now? And then would I need to change all my documents to your standards?
Both slash all great questions, Troy. So I'm familiar with C2C. They actually do a great job. We used to work pretty closely with a couple of people that work there. So I'm confident that the setup that they have for you is probably pretty sound as far as your policies and procedures manuals go and your ADV, things like that. You would not be required to change your documents to our templates, but that's always an option. And those are all available to our members in Academy. You can look at our templated policies and procedure documents and ADVs and agreements and see, just do a little comparison yourself. See if ours looks better, and not, I don't mean visually, but if ours looks more robust, and like it's something that you're not sure if you should transition to maybe our version of the compliance manual, that's something that you could pull our team for some just hourly consulting on, where we can compare what you currently have to what we have to offer and see if it'd be worth it for you to make the change over to our templates. So that's a great use of our hourly service. We do that a lot. It can culminate into, 3 or so hours of work from our team. And so, but again, not required. And then as far as what's included versus what's extra, or at a premium with XYPN, I always suggest that you attend a few office hours sessions for a few weeks in a row. See just how it's hitting you, Troy, and see if you're like, wow, there's a lot of stuff being talked on about on here that I am not familiar with, and I maybe don't know as much as I thought I knew. Or if you're like, well, I could have answered all those questions, or I don't have those questions that people are asking in this group-based setting, then maybe you don't need additional compliance support, and what's included in membership very well could be enough for you. We see that a lot with already registered firms that come over, and it's, I think, a great option to see what it feels like to use our resources that are included and be on your own, and kind of just gauge how that feels. If you feel like you're lacking in any area or you just want additional support, then there are projects we could do together, just hourly consulting we could do together, or the ongoing kind of retainer month-to-month service. So some people use the ongoing service for years and then trail that off and then end up just doing an hourly consult every quarter or so to just catch up, make sure they stay on the up and up. So there's a lot of different ways to engage with our team that doesn't require entering into the ongoing relationship if it's not what you need.
Great. That's super helpful. We got a couple logistical questions. Can non-members join the office hours, and do you have to be an XYPN member to join Academy? The answer is you do have to be a member for both of those things. So we're kind of touching on some stuff that's fully included. The office hours We have a few variations on office hours for compliance. We have some that are specific to registration, some that are specific to established firms. So a few opportunities to get what you need out of office hours. Those are included only for members. And then the same thing for the XYPN Academy, which is our learning management system that has all of our on-demand resources, including tools, guides, templates, checklists, webinars, all that good stuff. Also just included for XYPN members. So we're just piling up reasons to join, I guess.
Yes. And I mean, it's funny because there's such, like, from my seat, I have such it's a delicate balance with just offering to do things for our members, be here for them, charge a premium to do projects for them, as well as giving you all the resources to do all of that stuff on your own and learn it for yourself. So we want to make sure we give you both, because there's just different types of people who need different types of things, and we want to make sure we can meet the needs for those different advisors. So
absolutely. So much of it is like a time versus money conversation. You have to decide where your time is best spent. And if it's not in learning everything compliance, then you can throw some money at the problem. So.
Yeah, exactly. I know. And I tell people, oftentimes during office hours, which I do host once a week. And then one of my colleagues, another senior consultant, hosts also once a week. So we hold office hours for establishing firms twice a week, every week, unless there's holidays or something. But I hear a lot, or what I say a lot in office hours is that, you don't need to spend all of your time doing this, but as much time as you need to spend to be comfortable with it. And that's different for everyone. So
yeah,
sometimes
absolutely.
people join office hours just to hear what other people are asking, because they're like, I kind of feel good. I feel like I don't have any questions. But every now and then in that group-based setting, someone will ask something and you're like, oh yeah, maybe I need to know the answer to that too. So it's great.
Absolutely.
And also just pulls together, I think, that sense of community, because as advisors, like, there are things that our members know and have experienced that I never have, because I'm a compliance person. So, like, you guys say AUM billing is easy. Well, I say, going through an SEC audit is easy. It's just because we've done it. So we'll try and make it feel easier for those who haven't ever done it before.
Yes, I love that. Okay, we've got another question for you, Shelby. I know you work with a lot of startup solo practices. On the other end of the spectrum, how large of firms do you effectively support?
Really good question. And I maybe should have highlighted that as well. Me personally, I have about 35 ongoing coaching or consulting clients that I work with on a regular basis right now. And that's 35 different firms. My larger firms are SEC registered, I would say probably in the 10 to 20 staff member range. Like, so 10 or 20, IARs, and then maybe they have a few admins or clerical or administrative personnel as well. AUM wise, those firms, it varies, because some are very focused on financial planning, don't do a lot of investment management, but some of our largest AUM firms are approaching the $1 billion AUM mark. So that's just kind of, I think of firm size in a few different ways. One is like the size of the people working to support the firm, so the staff and the personnel, and then also the size of business that firm is doing in assets under management, or maybe just number of clients. So yeah, we're talking, close to $1 billion, and then, a few hundred clients for our largest AUM type firms.
Gotcha. What is the range of cost? I think we have like $475 to like $2,000 a month. Do you think that's pretty accurate, Shelby, for like ongoing compliance support outside of what's included?
Yep. And $475 a month starts, and then the $2,000 a month is really as close as we can get with how our business works and is shaped to an outsourced CCO type of offering. So it's really us doing a lot of the testing and audit prep, kind of checking yourself stuff that I mentioned, and then reporting back to the CCO with what we found, what they need to know, making sure they're in the loop, because ultimately they still will be the face of the firm during an audit. So we're not able to be listed as your CCO, but we can get as close to that as possible.
Cool. I love that. Gosh, well, we're getting towards the end here, Shelby. Is there one thing that you hope people leave with here today? Like, what's one takeaway that you want everyone to have?
Let's see. I think maybe I mentioned it earlier, but compliance is not as scary as it sounds or seems. I think even if you've been in industry before and not had to supervise a compliance program, but had to be a compliant person or staff member, you're part of the way there already. And we can bring your learning really far in a short amount of time after that. Even if you're someone who's coming from a different industry and this is all completely new to you, you may want and need our team more, but we can get you to the same place and understanding as folks who have a little bit more experience with it as well. So I think just don't be scared of it. It's not impossible.
That's perfect. Tori wants to sneak one in before we're done. He said,
Sure.
can you explain how the office hours work? Is it a Zoom meeting with everyone on where they can verbally ask questions, and how many hours per week is it?
Yeah, so it's 2 hours per week, 2 1-hour sessions per week, Tuesday and Wednesday, middle of the day. Yes, it's group based on Zoom, and we like to take the questions into the Zoom chat so that others can see what is being asked while we go through and answer them. So me as the host, I'll go through and I read the question and then I'll give the answer. Oftentimes people will come off mute. We'll get follow-up questions ironed out between us. We'll chat about some maybe more circumstantial things that didn't fit in the typed question or something like that. So we also I'll do a lot of screen sharing, showing members where to find things in Academy. If someone says like, I'm looking for a sample folder structure like we got earlier today,
Yeah.
I'll just share my screen, show them in Academy how to search for it, where to find it, that sort of thing. Sometimes people will draft little like, oh, I drafted my own email disclosure. Can I show it to you? And you can tell me what you think of it. So as much as everyone's comfortable sharing and asking in a group-based setting, that all happens. We can look at things together, time permitting on those calls to avoid you having to engage us for, some one-on-one time. But every now and then a very complex question will get asked in office hours and we will push it offline and suggest that you take some one-on-one time with a consultant so we can really more focused answer your question and possibly also do some research to make sure that we're getting you the right information. Not any one of us knows everything, but I feel like between our whole team, we probably do. And if we don't, we'll find the answer.
Yeah.
So sometimes we move offline out of office hours if things get too complex, but for the most part, our goal is to answer all the questions in the chat in just that one session.
Great. How many people do you think normally join?
It varies based on the time of year. During annual ADV update season, it's a lot more full, I can tell you, but by full, I mean maybe 35 on average.
Yeah.
A non-busy session is more like 10, 15 people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually there's not much less than 10.
Yeah.
And sometimes people join every week. They just sit there, listen, eat their lunch, and they never actually ask questions or chime in, and they just digest it on their own. So you can use it however you want.
Perfect. That's so great. Well, I think we got a lot of great content out here today, Shelby. Thank you so much for joining us. Just a reminder for everyone to please fill out the survey when you leave Zoom. Give us any feedback, and we would love to hear about how we did. Also, share any topics that you want to hear about in the future. We're always looking for what's important to you, so we're happy to take all those suggestions. And sign up for a call with XYPN if you want to learn more about membership. So I think that's it.
All right. Thank you, Amy, for hosting. Thank you, everyone,
Thank you,
for your
Shelby.
attendance and your attention today. Have a good rest of your week.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good one.